ahead and get started. My name is Amy Walquist, and this is Dr. Deborah Perkins. For those of you that don't know us, I know many of you do. And we are really excited, actually, to present this information to you. This is something that Dr. Perkins and I have been talking about since last year, at least, about just sharing some of our, what we've learned along our journey about nutrition and how to improve our health care. So we are actually calling it the top 10 and 20, the top changes that you can make in 2020. Hello. The changes that you can make in 2020 that are not going to rock your world as far as being really hard, but they're going to be really impactful. And when you end 2020, these are going to be changes that are going to make a really significant difference in your overall health. Come on in. We've got room. It's just a little snug here, girls. We got a spot there, and there's another one there, and you can move chairs around too. We're actually going to do these classes on. Is this the third Friday of the month? Anybody? I think it is.
Yes.
So we're always going to do it on the third Friday of the month at 1 o'clock, and we're going to aim for keeping it at this location. And we're going to be covering a different topic each month. A lot of them are going to be heavily focused on nutrition, but they're not all going to be, because nutrition is a huge part of what we advocate, but we also advocate other things like movement and drinking, plenty of water and that type of thing. So I'm just really sorry I did not silence my phone. So we're going to be hitting on a different topic each month. And this month, Dr. Perkins is going to talk to you about increasing your vegetable intake, why you want to do that, a little bit about how to do that, and what health impacts you can expect from that. But first, I'm going to touch on the topics that are on the sheet that you have passed out there. And you guys can take notes if you want to, but you don't have to. There's some more of these for those of you that just came in. There's some extra ones. So she's going to start out with vegetable intake, and I'm going to tell you the other topics that we're going to be covering throughout the months of 2020. So another topic that we're going to cover is on food sensitivities. And for those of you that aren't aware, there's lots of food sensitivities that people could have that they aren't even aware of. Alicia, there's a real chair right here, honey. There's one right there. There's lots of food sensitivities that people can have that they can be unaware of. And you can actually get food testing done. I've had that done. And they can look at a lot of the common foods. And what's crazy about it is that you're not always symptomatic. So I hear that a lot. People will say, well, like I eat dairy and it doesn't seem to bother me, which was my story. I didn't have an immediate reaction from dairy, but yet I was highly allergic to it or highly sensitive to it. And so that's where some good testing comes in to be able to look at the things and find out what it is that your body, for whatever reason, doesn't respond favorably to. And the top 2 food sensitivities, does anybody want to guess what they are?
Dairy.
Dairy, yes, and gluten. Dairy and gluten are the two highest sensitivities. So I was studying up for this class, and I figured out that we've had a 400% increase, 400% increase in diagnosed celiac disease in recent years. And the crazy thing about that is that 99% of people that are either sensitive or allergic to gluten don't even realize, they don't even know, so they're undiagnosed. And so what's happening is we're ending up with all these other health conditions that are secondary to people not being able to tolerate gluten and not knowing it. So we have things like psychiatric disorders and anxiety and food, like irritable bowel and all these digestive issues, and they're secondary to people either having a sensitivity to gluten or actually having celiac disease. And the crazy thing is you don't have to be diagnosed with celiac disease to have a problem with gluten. And a lot of people are like, why, bread, like people ate bread in biblical times. It's not a new thing, but the ingredients that go into the bread and the actual wheat is very different now than what it was in biblical times, and it's chromosomally very different, and it's very hard for our bodies to digest. And in the United States, we have bread that has a very, very high gluten content. One of my friends went to Europe this summer, and they cannot eat bread in the United States, but when they went to Europe, both her and her daughter were able to eat small amounts of bread in Europe because there's a much lower gluten content in Europe. So gluten is a huge one, and you can definitely get tested for it. Dr. Perkins practices functional medicine as well as chiropractic, and she is my friend and my physician, and she's run a lot of these tests that we'll be talking about through the month. She's ran a lot of those tests on me, and she's able to do food sensitivity testing and actually to specifically check for gluten. Another thing that you can do is if you think that you're just curious and you want to see if gluten's a problem, you can pull it out of your diet for 30 days completely, like 100% pull it out, and then put it back in and see if you're symptomatic. And if you will be. Yeah. And then there's that. And then there's that. Most people are, even if they don't show any sensitivity, but most people are. And the reason why you would want to do it is because it does cause a lot of those secondary health concerns, a lot of those other issues. If you have a sensitivity to gluten and you still consume it, then it can cause a lot of other health problems. And then dairy, about 75% of people walking around cannot tolerate dairy. So the thing is milk is the perfect food if you're a calf. But if you're a human, it's not. It's very difficult to digest. It causes a lot of bloating and constipation, diarrhea, just kind of not feeling really great. But like I mentioned, a lot of people that have a problem with dairy are not really symptomatic, and they don't necessarily have a problem with it. And just because of a lot of the secondary health concerns that can come about from consuming dairy, it's really something that a lot of the functional medicine doctors that we like to follow, Dr. Hyman and Dr. Krusser, they really just recommend that you just don't consume dairy. Or if you do consume it, to consume a very small amount of it and grass-fed and just very minimal amounts of it. So that's one of the things that we're going to talk about is food sensitivities. Another topic we're going to hit on is detoxing your home. And a lot of you that know me well, you've already heard my spiel on detoxing your home, and a lot of you have been down this journey. So Dr. Perkins and I are super passionate about getting toxins and chemicals out of your home and out of your makeup drawer and out of your shower, and that's extremely important to do that. I meet a lot of people that are super healthy and they go to the gym all the time and they eat really healthy and they eat organic and eat plant-based, and then they slaughter all these toxic chemicals on their body in the form of makeup and lotions and perfumes and fragrances, and that's a big part of it. Like, it's a really, really huge part of living a healthy lifestyle is being mindful of the things that you're putting on your body, paying attention to what kinds of things you bring into your home. Candles, they're toxic. Like air fresheners, those types of things, those are all things that are really bad for us. Everything that we breathe in, everything that goes on our skin is absorbed into our body. And I've heard a lot of people say, well, our bodies are made to process things. They are, but we are inundating our body with thousands and thousands of unknown chemicals that have never been tested. They come out with new chemicals every single year. And a lot of people assume that our government and the regulating agencies are actually looking at these chemicals and establishing their safety, but that's not true. Oh, you're getting out of the camera. Sorry, Jody. I tend to wander. I use my hands a lot. I'll try to stand still. So yeah, these things are not being tested. It's not just that way in the self-care products. It's also that way with food. We assume that the things that are in the Oreos and the packaged potato chips, that those are actually items. It's not, I don't want to call it food because it's not food. That those ingredients are safe and that they've been tested, but that's not accurate at all. Another thing that we're gonna talk about that leads me into fake food. Perfect lead in, fake food. Yeah, Debbie calls it Frankenfood, which means that it's like it was created in a laboratory by a scientist, which it is. A lot of the foods that are heavily processed, you might hear them referred to ultra-processed foods. They are actually created in a laboratory by a scientist with ingredients that no one even knows what it is, and they're made to have addictive properties. So there's a reason that when you open that bag of potato chips that it's really hard to stop, or that bag of candy, like M&Ms. Like, who can put down a bag of M&Ms? Anybody? I mean, they're made to be addictive. And so we see that a lot of the foods are heavily processed, and we're wanting to see that number go down. So in the United States, the percentage is about, the average American consumes about 60% of their daily intake is ultra-processed foods. So this is like the Snickers and the M&Ms and the packaged potato chips. Like, when you go to reach for a snack, do you reach for something like this? Or do you reach for a bag of potato chips or a protein bar or a granola bar? Most people in America grab the processed food, and that's the majority of their caloric consumption. And with every 10% increase in processed, I'm talking ultra-processed food, with every 10% you increase and you consume, it increases your cancer risk by 12%. So we're going to want to lean more towards the whole food, towards the real food, towards food that's as close to the way that it originally was created, like in its original form, I guess would be the best way to say it. We know that there's lots of different eating styles out there, so it's confusing. Raise your hand if you're just totally confused as to what in the world you're supposed to eat and what diet style or eating style is the best. Yeah, that's so common. I mean, it really is, because you've got all these buzzwords like everybody's doing keto, and then you've got paleo and AIP and what's the blood type diet? I mean, there's so many of them out there. DASH, yeah. There's just lots and lots of different styles.
Soup diet, I don't know. There's all different kinds of stuff.
So I learned last night when I was studying about the Pegan diet. Has anybody heard about that? Does anybody follow Dr. Hyman? Well, I actually was like, oh, there's a name to how I eat. And it's the Pegan diet, and it's kind of like paleo meets vegan. And you definitely consume meat, but you go towards the high quality meats and smaller amounts of meat and more vegetables. And the majority of your caloric intake is actually fruits and vegetables. So it leans more towards the vegetarian. And then of course vegetarian, like we didn't mention that, that's really trendy. It's super trendy, especially with younger people. And surprisingly, we're not huge proponents of it. It's just actually really hard to get all the nutrients that you need when you eat that lifestyle. So we're gonna actually clear some of the air on that, and we're gonna let you know, like, if your goal is weight loss, this might be a good style for you to eat. And then this is the length of time that's acceptable to do that, because some of them are good for a season. And then it's time to change it up and eat a different way. So that's one of the topics that we're going to cover. And then mindset and stress. Raise your hand if you think that your thought life has anything to do with the health of your body. Yeah. So like when we were all kids, did anybody know that? I mean, I had no idea. You know, that there just wasn't a lot of research in the power of the mind. And we've just made such incredible advancements in medicine, which is wonderful. And now we all know that stress does affect our body. It can definitely affect our heart health and, you know, anxiety and depression and all these different things. And so it's super important that we learn how to control our thought life and we learn how to manage stress, because there's not a single person in this room that doesn't have stress. We all tend to think like, I'm so busy, I have so much stress. Well, we all do. Everybody does. There are definitely people that have too much on their plate. You guys don't. You're retired. And then there's retirement. Pam, you keep your schedule pretty full though. So we're gonna try to help you guys learn how to just maybe add in certain things that will help you to manage your stress a little bit better, and definitely there is a real key to learning how to manage your thought life instead of letting your thought life manage you. Then we're going to talk about proper hydration. So I was actually looking at some statistics on, I gotta look it up because I just looked at it this morning, on soda pops. And this is crazy, you guys. The average American consumes 38 gallons of soda pop every year.
Wow.
38 gallons. And 1 can of soda, which if anybody here is a Quick Trip fan, you're definitely not drinking a can of soda. You're drinking way more than that. 1 can of soda has 10 teaspoons of sugar. So when you look at that and you translate what that looks like with your sugar intake, the other thing is that with soda pop, it also has phosphorus in it, which pulls the calcium out of the bones. So there's lots of reasons not to consume soda. And it's the actual consumption of soda has gone down, which is good. And I think a lot of that is due to the education on sugar. And it has gone down, but we need it to go down to 0. I would say I'm probably pretty close to 0 as far as the amount of soda that I consumed last year. And I love it, don't get me wrong, I love Coke. If I could get away with it, I would drink Coke. Like, it would not be a problem for me to do that, but my body just has high standards. Coke is not part of it. It is just not part of it. It's high standards, very high standards. So there's a lot of reasons to decrease soda consumption, and what we need to be drinking instead is we really need to be drinking primarily water. And when you look at your weight, it needs to be, and this is a minimum, it needs to be half of your body weight in ounces. So at 140 pounds, you need to drink a minimum of 70 ounces per day. And I actually drink way more than that. I would say I'm probably closer to, I'm probably about 100 ounces per day at least. And everybody's body is a little different. If you feel thirsty, then you're probably borderline dehydrated. And if you go to the bathroom and your urine looks more along the line of yellow rather than like almost clear straw colored, then you definitely need more water intake. And water doesn't count in coffee. It is caffeinated, it doesn't count. And of course, or tea. Anything that's caffeinated, it doesn't count. I drink decaffeinated, but I still don't count the water that I drink in decaffeinated coffee and tea. I still just count it as plain up water that doesn't have anything else in it. So really important to increase your water intake and decrease all the other things. And just be mindful of the calories that you drink when you're drinking, like coffee with creamer, or like even juice. I mean, like Artemisia red juice has calories in it. So just, we're not proponents of counting calories. Don't get me wrong, like I don't count calories. If you eat right, you don't need to count calories. But it's just interesting when you start looking at what is hidden in drinks. Most of them, the ones that you purchase, most of those are actually going to have a lot of sugar in them. And backtracking a little bit, sugar isn't just called sugar on the label. It's called fructose and dextrose and all kinds of different things because the food industry, and I use that term loosely, they've gotten really smart and so they changed the name. They don't call it high fructose corn syrup. They'll call it just syrup, or like they keep changing up the name on the label so that they'll deceive us into thinking that it actually doesn't have sugar on it. So be a label reader and just be mindful of what's in your drinks. And then we're going to talk about movement. And I don't feel like I'm super qualified to even speak on this because I'm not the rock star like somebody in the room is on movement. We have a celebrity movement lady in the room, and that would not be me. I wear a Fitbit, you know, I strive for my 10,000 steps. But you know, what we need to do is we need to incorporate movement into our days. We're in a very stagnant culture where we sit a lot. We spend a lot of time behind computers and a lot of time in front of televisions, and we need to get up and move more often. And one thing I do try to do is if I have a heavy computer day, I try to just get up and exercise for 5 or 10 minutes, do some deep breathing, get some oxygen to my cells, to my brain, and I try to just do like, you know, just exercises just to try to increase my movement. And the other thing that we do as a family that really helps is we try to incorporate movement into our fun. So a lot of times my husband and I, instead of going and watching a movie, we'll go walk at one of the local, you know, like outdoors at one of the local parks. We do that all the time. And that's just a way that we try to incorporate movement into our everyday life instead of like going to the gym. No gym would ever know my face in the Kansas City area. I'm not a gym person. It's just not my thing. But I am all about hiking. I like to be outside. And I do like to move a lot, so I try to incorporate it more in the fun part of my life rather than making it a chore. And then we're going to talk about moving towards organic and grass-fed. And I have a lot of people that will ask me, you know, like, do you spend more money on organic or do you not? And where do you get your meat at? And so we're going to spend 1 month just talking to you about where do we get the meat that we serve our family. Do we buy organic? And the answer is we do lean towards organic. Not that the organic label can completely be trusted, but what you can't trust is you can't trust strawberries that have been doused in chemicals. And if you look at, and Debbie's going to talk about this, Dr. Perkins is going to talk about this, strawberries is on the Dirty Dozen list. So that means that strawberries, if they're not organic, they're covered in pesticides. Same thing with grapes. And so I will wrestle grapes out of my husband's hands if they're not organic. I'm like, you can't have those, they're not organic. So sometimes it matters and sometimes it doesn't, and it's about really knowing when it's the biggest, risk. And so we want to minimize our pesticide exposure. So we're going to spend a month talking about where the best places to get your food are and when it really matters. And then we're going to try 1 month to talk about food prep and recipes and what types of things we do to keep up with that busy lifestyle, but still not let go of what's important to us so that later on in our lives, we're going to have a healthy, vibrant life when we're, 10, 20 years older than what we are because of the choices that we make now. And then the other thing I want to mention to you guys is that if you guys follow these recommendations that Dr. Perkins and I are going to be teaching you over the course of the year, we're going to expect you to meet some of your health goals, whether it be decreasing inflammation in your body, losing weight, being less achy, feeling better, sleeping better. All those things are going to be definitely achievable. Those are expectations that we feel pretty confident in. Food is medicine. It's the original medicine. It's meant to heal. And plants, not just food, but plants as well, are the way that we were supposed to heal our body from the beginning. And so we feel pretty confident in that. As well as there are certain situations where you have underlying health conditions that may need to be addressed. For instance, if your adrenals and your hormones are completely out of balance, it may be very difficult for you to lose weight because of underlying conditions. And that's where coming and seeing Dr. Perkins can come into play. She practices functional medicine, and so she can order labs and she can look at things. And there are definitely times where you just have to look below the surface and you have to see what in the world is going on here. We do have vitamin and mineral deficiencies because of the world we live in. The soil does not contain the minerals that it used to contain, and so even if you do eat super healthy, there can still be vitamin and mineral deficiencies. And even if you eat super healthy and you have malabsorption and your gut is not able to absorb things appropriately, which would be my story, then you're not getting the full benefit of the foods that you consume. And so Dr. Perkins, of course, is available. We've got her business cards up here. If anybody wants to make an appointment with her, then that's something that would be great to do. I am actually going through an 18-month course to become a functional medicine nutrition coach. So if anybody wants to give me a shout out and sit down with me and go through your diet and have some personal coaching, I'm willing to do that. I'm not really far into it, but because of my own personal experience and my own research, I feel qualified to do that. So we don't have our business cards, but we'll get them out. Y'all know how to find us anyway. You know how to track us down. So anyway, we're really excited to have you guys, and I'm going to let Dr. Perkins talk to us about vegetables. Yeah. I didn't even tell him, so.
You did perfect.
Good.
Yay. Sorry, this has been going off too. I apologize. Okay. So I'm super excited to work with Amy in the world of nutrition because she has made so many changes herself and has a really, really great testimony. So you guys you guys should just sit down and have a coffee with her or something because she has such a great testimony to share. I'm a chiropractor, and I went to chiropractic school after working as an accountant for 5 years. So my undergrad's actually in finance, and as I was working in finance, all day I'm sitting and I found myself just curling up into this ball and having all this tension and stress, and I was about 25, 26, and my mom was like, you should really go try to see a chiropractor. Like, I was having like multiple headaches a week, and I was like, okay, whatever, Mom, and so I went, and it made such a big difference in my life that I quit my job and I went back to school. And I didn't even know this world of functional medicine at that point. So I was just like, my back feels so much better. This is great. I want to help other people feel this way, right? So in school, I had a really great clinician. She has she has her own practice, and then she came into the school and taught too. And she has a DABC certificate, which is kind of a functional medicine certificate. And she taught our clinical laboratory class, and I was just amazed at this other world of health, right? Not medicine. I don't even like the word functional medicine. Let's call it functional health, because it changes your life, right? So it's different from popping a pill. It's a lifestyle, right? You don't just, we're going to talk about supplements, but just taking a supplement is not going to change your life. You have to do it yourself. So, and a big part of that is changing your diet, because I really do believe that food is medicine. It really is our medicine. So, sorry, I'm really passionate about this stuff. Okay, so does anybody know what the SAD diet is? Anybody heard of? It's an acronym. It's
Standard American diet.
Yes, the standard American diet. Isn't that sad that Americans have been labeled to have a sad diet? Like, that makes me super sad. So it's a diet with excess carbs, right? Refined excess carbs, not carbs in the form of fruits and vegetables, but carbs in the forms of potato chips and, sugary baked goods and things like that. So obviously a lot of processed foods. I mean, when we go to the grocery store, we have a little produce section, we have a little meat section, and then we have all these aisles of boxed stuff, bagged stuff, bottled stuff. That's why we have a SAD diet. It's because that's how our grocery stores are. We're going to talk a little bit and one way to change up that SAD diet is to really increase your fruits and vegetables. But I wanted to pass around these two first. Does
anybody remember the food pyramid? Yeah? The original food pyramid. I think this came out in like the 50s or something, and it was around for 19 years that we were taught. I mean, I remember in grade school, this is what they told us to eat like. So you can see on the bottom, bread, cereal, and pasta. That's what we're supposed to eat the most of. That is all processed food. There's no nutrition in that, guys. So I'll let you guys kind of pass that around and take a look at it. And then in 2011, the USDA said, okay, wait a minute, we need to change this up a little bit. Our country's getting really sick. So in 2011, they came out with My Plate. And when I was going through chiropractic school, in my biochemistry test or class, my teacher said, this is what we have to go by now, is the My Plate. And I looked at it and I'm like, really? Dairy? Like, we should be drinking milk every day? Really? Even as adults? Did you guys know the older we get, we make less lactase, which is the enzyme that breaks down lactose? We don't need that as adults. And this is the guidelines for all of us. So I also have another huge problem with this is that like 1/4 of our plate is processed, right? So I'm just gonna pass that around too. And then I said, okay, well, I want to create my own plate. So here's my plate. Do you see this green section right here? What do you guys think that is? Vegetables, yeah. And you know, this can be changed up a little bit, but you know, I have 15% needs to come from protein, 15% from healthy fats, and another 15% from fruit. And then this little sliver right here, I did this for all you guys, or people that don't want to give up all the things that they love. So this 5% are those treat days. I had a patient that told me she calls them treats, not cheats, and I really love that. Because you don't want to think of it as cheating on yourself, right? It's a treat. So that's your treats, is that little sliver there. And I'll let you guys look at that. You can take a picture of it or whatever. So as you can see, we've kind of grown up with this style of eating that makes us ill, that makes us sick. So let's change that. Everybody, one by one, it doesn't have to be all in one day, but making those small little changes every day makes such a big impact in your life. So why eat vegetables? What's the point of eating vegetables? Well, for one, they have every macronutrient that we need. They have carbohydrates, and this is where we should get most of our carbohydrates from, is vegetables. You get a little bit from fruit, but most of it needs to be from vegetables. And I don't want you to be afraid of eating carbs from vegetables. So you got your macronutrient of carbohydrates, you have a little bit of protein in plants or in vegetables, and that's important too. And there's also fat in vegetables, which I actually had to look that up, and I was like, oh, broccoli actually has some fat in it, and we don't think about that. We think of fat from animals and from oils and things like that, but there actually is a little bit of fat in our vegetables. So I think that's super cool that vegetables have every single macronutrient that our body needs to thrive, right? So that's really amazing, I think. And then, of course, all the vitamins and minerals are in those vegetables. You got your B vitamins, right? And B vitamins are water-soluble vitamins. So those ones are easy to cook out. So it's important to eat some of your veggies raw. And then you have your minerals, which minerals are such a really, really important thing in our body, but we don't need a ton of it either, which is really cool. We don't need I don't know, some crazy amount of supplements have a ton of vitamins, and we don't need a ton of them. If our bodies are working properly and our guts are absorbing, we don't need a ton of it because they're a minor part of our body. Like our body's like 10% vitamins and minerals. So they're only a small part of our body, but they make a big, big impact in our body. They are cofactors, so our body does get a little nerdy on you. So our body does do all of these enzymatic processes, right? So for us to turn that food right there into working energy, for us to use this energy in our body, has to go through all these series of processes. And I should have printed it out so you can see how crazy long this process is. But our bodies are so amazing and efficient. When we are eating healthy, we do this perfectly. But you need, like, let's say you have one molecule that needs to turn into this molecule, but here in the middle, for this to turn into this, we need to have magnesium, or we need to have B12. So for that process to continue on, we need to have those nutrients. So, you know, I'm sure you've all felt it. I know I have too. When you just feel fatigued, low energy, and that's because something in that process got stopped up, right? Something in that process is not working correctly. Either you don't have the mineral, you don't have the vitamin, or you don't have, you know, your liver's not working correctly, so you're spending too much spending too much energy on your liver, and your body can't spend the energy that it needs to make more energy, if that makes sense. So, yeah, vitamins, minerals, they are such a huge part, but also getting that organic matter from the vegetables is really important too. The, you know, organic, I don't mean organic in terms of don't like organic vegetables, pesticides, herbicides. I mean organic in more of the chemistry form, carbon compounds. Our body is made up of carbon compounds, and we get that from our food, from our nutrition. So when we ingest these, our digestion system breaks up these carbon compounds, and we use it to build up our body, to build muscle, to build our bones, to repair our organs and the cells in our body. So I hope you guys are I love, the vegetables are just such a big part of this. So another really cool thing about vegetables, these all have your names, so I'm gonna look at my paper here. So these are kind of getting a little more trendy too, and just because they're getting more researched, are phytonutrients, or you'll see them listed as polyphenols or antioxidants, things like that. So a lot of these phytonutrients give vegetables their colors. So like carrots, what color? Well, some are different colors, but orange carrots, does anybody know what makes carrots orange? Beta carotene, right? And beta carotene is a phytonutrient. And that phytonutrient, do you know what beta carotene does? Everybody knows carrots are good for your eyes, right? Well, beta carotene in our body converts it into vitamin A. And vitamin A is super important for our eye health, for our skin health, right? For our gut lining, the mucous membranes in our body, in our nose. So that's just one example of just one little teeny tiny phytonutrient that makes such a big impact in our body. And you get that from all of the orange vegetables, right? So there's orange peppers out there too. So, you know, it's not just from carrots, but there's other carotenoids out there that are really important. So when you hear eat the rainbow, I don't mean the Skittles rainbow, I mean eat the rainbow, and yeah, Daniel's not liking that one. But eat the rainbow because all of those nutrients, all those colors are from nutrients in those vegetables and in those fruits. So eat a natural rainbow. So just some more examples. Tomatoes have lycopene in it, and lycopene has been researched to help reduce the risk of men getting prostate cancer. So keeping these things in your diet and using your food as medicine, once again, is so important. These phytonutrients have anti-cancer properties, right? these phytonutrients have anti-inflammatory properties. They have antimicrobial properties. You know, garlic is a natural antibiotic. Yes, I said antibiotic. Like, so, you know, it's a natural antibiotic, and that's okay. And I'll give you a little tip. To get those antimicrobial properties of garlic, before you cook it, you want to cut it or crush it, but then immediately put it in some olive oil, because that helps contain that phytonutrient in garlic, and helps preserve it almost before you cook it, so you're actually getting the benefit. Because if you just throw it in a hot pan immediately, it kind of reduces the effect that you're getting from that. And this one is really cool. I know algae, I don't think it's technically I don't know, plant, it's a lot, I don't know. I think it's a plant, but algae has astaxanthin in it, and astaxanthin helps boost testosterone levels, which is really cool too, right? And then there's flavonoids, and flavonoids are broken down into some different categories, but quercetin is a flavonoid. I don't know if any of you have heard of that one, but it's in onions and leeks and Brussels sprouts, things like that. And it is actually antihistamine, which when I was researching, I didn't know that, but I thought that was really cool. It's an anti-inflammatory. And then you also have the category of flavones, which celery, parsley, and hot peppers, these are all really great antioxidants. And then one more, because everybody knows this one, turmeric, right? Everybody knows turmeric has really good anti-inflammatory effects, and that's because of the phenolic acid in them. So, and it's really the curcumin in the turmeric. So when you're looking at supplements and you're, wanting to get a turmeric supplement because, it has that good anti-inflammatory effect, make sure that it has a good amount of curcumin in it, because if it just says turmeric, you don't know how much curcumin is actually in that supplement. And then, nerdy again, if you add black pepper to that, it makes it more bioavailable for your body to absorb that in. So, yeah, really cool. So Amy talked about, eating foods that are in their natural form, right? So, I can take a head of lettuce, right, and just pull it right out of the ground. I can take an apple, pull it off of the tree, and that's what we mean by whole foods. It's something that you can, pull off a tree, take out of the ground, you can kill it, and you can eat it, things like that. Those are whole foods. It's not something that comes out of a box. It's not something that comes out of a bag or out of a bakery, right? It's not formulated in a lab by scientists and made to be super addictive. That's why, you can't stop eating that bag of M&Ms. There's really, really smart scientists that are in there, way smarter than I am, and putting all of these really addictive things in these, like Doritos, Cheetos. I mean, those things you can't put them down, and that's because our bodies they don't know how to handle those types of substances because they're not real. They're fake. They're freaking food. So raw versus cooked, right? That's a little bit of a debate that people have. I say eat it both ways because I know that eating raw, you're going to get more of those water-soluble vitamins because, right, as you cook, you're going to lose some of the water from the vegetables. So you definitely want to eat it raw. But you also want to cook them because when you cook them, it makes some things more bioavailable, easier for us to digest and absorb. So really cool fact is tomatoes, that lycopene that I talked about for prostate health, that lycopene, you get more abundance of it when you cook it. It makes it more available for us to absorb and use in our body. So do it both ways. I love the raw, obviously, as we're doing raw. I love to roast my vegetables and season them up, and they're delicious. I like to saute some of my vegetables. I'm not a big fan of steaming because I don't think it leaves much flavor left in them and they get all weird and mushy. So if you grew up with eating boiled vegetables, you probably don't like vegetables. But, you know, find a different way to cook them because they really can be very delicious. And as your palate changes and you move away from the processed food, you start liking them more too. Because obviously, if you compare a piece of celery to a Dorito, what's your palate gonna like more at first? It's gonna like the Dorito because it was chemically formed for us to like it, right? So can't compare the two in terms of taste, right? But once your palate changes, you're gonna look at that Dorito and go, oh, I just don't even want that. I know it's gonna make me feel awful. So, and then my last 2 points here, how am I doing on time? Pretty good. So the next point I want to make is to talk a little bit about our gut health, right? It's all over the place now, you know, probiotics, prebiotics, what are they? Do we need to take them? Do we not need to take them? What is the microbiome? So just to break that down a little bit for you, the microbiome, and it's not only in our gut for one, but our microbiome is things like bacteria, yeast, other fungi. They're even finding viruses, beneficial viruses that are in our gut. We also have a microbiome in our eye, in our nose. They're finding it deep in the deeper layers of your skin that we have a microbiome. And so all of these bugs in our body are talking to each other. They're talking to our cells. They're talking to our organs. And they're communicating and telling these different places in our body what to do. And they do that through digesting the food that they eat, right? And what do these bugs eat? Vegetables, fruits. And we want to feed those bugs because they are so beneficial for us. And they release compounds like, if you've done like a keto diet, you might know some of this. Like butyric acid is one of them that is made in our gut, and it has this wonderful anti-inflammatory effect for our bodies. So really, really important to feed our microbiome the correct things. And when we feed them the correct things, it decreases our risks for just about every disease out there. Heart disease, cancers, autoimmune diseases, like the list goes on and on. So it's how we protect our body. That's why our food is medicine, because it keeps us from taking medicine, I guess. Let me turn my page here. So, digesting these vegetables. If you're someone that doesn't eat a lot of vegetables and then you start, you might notice your guts go through a little bit of a change. You might notice some bloating, maybe even gas, and that's because you don't have the right microbiome yet. But as you feed yourself more and more vegetables, your body will start to develop. That's the best way to develop your microbiome, is to feed what they want. So your body will start to know, or your microbiome will start to develop as you feed them better food. So that's a really important point. And then your body might also not be secreting the right digestive enzymes during that process, because if you're not eating a lot of good carbs, your body may not be secreting those digestive enzymes to break down carbs too. So that's where a supplement can become very handy, is a digestive enzyme to help digest those carbs a little bit better that your body's not used to. Let's see. So you talked a little bit about organic produce. So herbicides, pesticides, or glyphosate, let's just call it what it is. Glyphosate, has been a big hot topic in the news, and it has cancer causing effects. It does. And the research has said it, and I really think our government is doing us a disservice and trying to cover it up a little bit. But please know that it's a really bad substance, and I believe we should do everything that we can to try to get it off of our food. It's really important for our health. I think we're just going to keep getting sicker and sicker if these kinds of substances are not banned and stopped. So, because even if we do everything that we can personally to keep those off of our food, it still gets in our water supply. There's the runoff effect. Anyways, try to buy organic as much as you can. And the FDA does have a pretty loose label on organic. So it's even better if you have a local farmer that you trust and and buy your stuff from them. Not only are you getting better produce, but you're also, supporting your local economy by doing that and supporting those smaller farmers. And that way we can continue to have that good produce. Because if we don't support them, we're going to be stuck with yuck, you know what I mean? So go to your local farmers markets or grow your own food too. You can have your own home gardens and grow a lot of the things that you eat. So that's a thought that you should really consider. It's not like you could grow everything you want, but a lot of things you could grow yourself. But I heard this statistic that one exposure to glyphosate, so say you ate an apple, it takes your body 3 weeks to detox that glyphosate, right? 3 weeks. And think about in a day how much we're probably getting of that. And it's a constant thing that we're getting exposed to. So our liver is the one that has to process all of that and manage all of that. So if we're constantly getting that glyphosate, it's in our liver all the time. Our liver is spending so much dang energy on detoxing just that one chemical, right? And that's not the only one we're being exposed to, but that's just this example. It takes away the energy that we need for the whole rest of our body to function. And that's where we get that, once again, that fatigue and things like that. So wash your vegetables really, really well. Even if you do buy organic, there's still some stuff on it. Wash them really well. Young Living makes a fruit and veggie wash with the Thieves Blend, which is a really good one. Guys, you can also use vinegar. Water and vinegar, soak them, take them out, rinse them. Really, really easy to do. I peel a lot of my stuff too. Even though I know a lot of the nutrients are in the peel, I would rather not have the glyphosate. So peel your stuff. EWG, which is the Environmental Working Group, really, really great organization. If everybody can go on there and check it out, they are I think a non-for-profit, and they have nobody advertising them. They don't have anybody coming on and telling them what to do, so you can trust it. They look at research. They start up petitions and things like that too. Like I just did one today. I signed a petition to try to get our government to ban some other chemical. I can't even say what the name of it is. It's some kind of chemical that I know is probably awful. So I pass this around, but this is like something that you can like throw in your wallet or your purse, and it can. It's the Dirty Dozen in the Clean 15. So if it's something on the Dirty Dozen list, buy organic. Just don't even not buy organic on that. It's yucky. Like Amy said, strawberries are at the very top. So try to buy it organic. If you absolutely cannot, wash it really, really, really good. And then the Clean 15 are things that they are like, there's not a lot of pesticides used on that stuff because the bugs haven't attacked it yet, I don't know. But that's the kind of stuff that you don't necessarily have to buy organic. So, like I said, EWG, you can pass this around, but go on their website. I really like it. They have they don't only talk about food, but they talk about clean products for our body and, everything else like that. So, I think that's all I have. Yeah.
Yeah, I meant to mention when I was talking about water that on the back side of your paper, you have, I think I included the link to the EWG tap water. And you can go on there and you can actually put in your zip code and choose your water department. And it'll tell you what kind of junk is in your tap water. And they're looking for icky chemicals like fluoride and things that you wouldn't want, or things that there's too much of it in there. And I was really shocked. I mean, there was some really disturbing things in my tap water, but they're not even looking for things like medications, which we know those things are in our water. Those are getting into the water supply because we use so many medications that we need a filtration system that is going to pull those things out, and we'll get to that when we talk about our water and hydration. Questions, yeah. Does anybody have questions?
So what are some good foods for bolstering the immune system?
Vegetables. I'm serious.
Yeah.
Any particular?
No, eat all different types of vegetables. They're all really important.
Garlic is really,
Yeah, garlic
really,
is that
really powerful. Like if you're
antimicrobial.
looking for one thing, garlic is extremely powerful. And the more you eat of it, the more it's going to strengthen your immune system. We eat it probably 4 or 5 times a week. And when I mean garlic, I'm not talking about the jar or the shaker. I'm talking about like the cloves of garlic that looks like an onion that you have to break apart, and yeah.
Sorry.
Todd had a question.
How do you feel about salt? It's a mineral, but
It's a mineral. We need it. Buy good quality salt. Do not buy iodinized salt, people.
but if people are salting their food, do you think that is their body telling them they need more salt, or do you think people do it? And can you
I
reset
get
your
what
salt
you're saying.
level by, like you did with your sweet level? You can kind of reset.
I get what you're saying. Salt is one of those essential minerals that we need in our body. I think the issue comes from processed food. If you're eating a lot of processed food, there's going to be way too much salt in there, and it's going to be it's not going to be the good form of salt that our bodies utilize the best. So things like sea salt or mineral salt, those are much better for us than buying, like the can of the iodinized salt. That's my thoughts is if you are eating a whole food diet, it's okay to I think it's fine to salt your vegetables. That is not a problem. If you're worried about hypertension and things like that, maybe you go a little less, but really research is not finding that salt is a major issue with even hypertension now. So I think the issue is more of not eating the correct form of salt and then eating a lot of processed stuff that has just way, way too much in it. Does that help, Todd?
Okay, so I'm trying to get my kids to eat more vegetables, and they have a few that they like. So as I try to, increase their palate, is it fine to not eat a big variety? Like if they just do carrots and bell peppers or whatever, and I have them, and just for myself, like I have my own favorites too that I roast, or I do a lot of the same ones. And so, I guess that's better than nothing, but
It's better, yes.
should I?
Definitely widen the variety.
Right.
Right. So your kids, they're getting the orange and they're getting whatever bell pepper.
Yeah, different
Different colors.
yeah.
But you're missing the greens or
Well, and I roast a lot of broccoli and I'll make them have, 2 bites of,
yeah.
but, cause I know
And
their
that's all
palates
you
will
can
change.
It will, it
but-
will, and that's all you can do is just make it available for them. And if you're not offering them other, like, processed stuff, and that's really what they have to eat,
Right,
they'll eat it.
yeah.
They will, or
They don't have the other
if they
option,
don't, eventually they will. So, and kids really, they tend to eat more fruits too.
Right.
But their bodies can handle the sugar better at a younger age and the fruits. But you still want to try to get as much vegetables in them as you can.
Yeah, cause looking at that plate, I'm like, yeah, they're nowhere near the vegetable
Right.
side right now.
Can I
Right.
just
But-
comment on that?
Yeah, go for it.
Before I'm off. I think while you're trying to incorporate the vegetables for their palate to get them to like different things as they get older, and they will. Hiding them in food, I know it's not the best, but to
Right.
get them in their system,
Yeah.
to put them in your spaghetti sauce, you make homemade spaghetti sauce, you can hide them in a lot of different foods. But, I mean, continue, because we want them to start liking them. But you can do that just so it's getting in their system to boost their immune system. It's a little trick.
And muffins and smoothies too.
Yeah.
You can put
Absolutely.
greens in
Yeah.
smoothies,
I
but
do
put a lot of
that.
fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You don't even.
that's a
You can,
great
yeah.
way.
you can hide zucchini in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, spinach is great.
Put
Yeah,
spinach and
that's good.
avocado in smoothies,
Mhm.
and it actually makes it really creamy, and you can't even taste it.
Yeah.
They don't know it's in there. The other thing I do, just because we've widened our vegetable intake a lot, and my family's been really, really good troopers about it, but we do a lot of dips. We do really good dips,
Yeah.
like Costco has an almond-based dip, it's some really good hummuses that are organic. And, I just, like she said, I make it available, and then it's like, oh wow, they're eating raw zucchini, who knew? But the thing is that the dips are high in fat and calories, but, nobody in my family really has a significant weight problem, so I don't worry about it, and they're getting the vegetables with it, so I just make it available. So if you can find a good dip, or even make a dip, I make some too, that has really good flavor to it, let's be honest, you really can't taste the vegetable all that much. It's really about eating the dip. And if that gets them a lot more variety in vegetables, then it's totally worth it.
Anything else?
The other thing I was gonna talk about on the veggies that we forgot about is, I do raw and cooked along with Dr. Perkins. And one thing that I do, just because of my busy schedule, is I cut and prep and wash raw vegetables at least once or twice a week. And I keep them in glass jars. Actually, my snack is right here. So I use glass jars, and this is how I travel with my snacks, because I don't eat very little processed food. And so when it's in the refrigerator and it's already washed and prepped, it's so much easier to grab it on the go rather than grabbing something that's processed. And I find that it lasts longer in glass jars than it does. I mean, I don't love Ziploc bags because the stuff that it's made out of isn't that great, and I don't want my food sitting in it. But I also find that it lasts longer in these. And I love these jars. You can get them at Walmart, and these work out great. So we usually have, 3 or 4 of the big tall jars of vegetables that are clean and in the refrigerator. And when my husband comes home from work and he's starving because he skipped lunch, which is typical, then I pull out hummus and vegetables for him to eat while I'm finishing up the meal, instead of him cooking something processed.
Having it ready to go when you need it
Yeah.
is really important, because it's easier to pick out that, whatever bag of chips than
Yeah.
it is to cut up some celery. You know
Right,
what I mean?
right.
So having that ready. What's up, Liz?
So how bad is like the canned green beans that are organic and no salt added?
Do you want to
I doubt that, I just want to put it in a lab and test and see what's left in it,
Yeah.
because I doubt there's much left in it,
And then you're talking
nutrient
about
wise.
And it concerns me because if the can isn't, like a safe ingredient, then I have to look at are you absorbing metal into your green beans, and then when you look at, like she said, what's left versus how long have those green beans been in that can? Yeah.
So what about the plastic? We get frozen stuff, but it's in plastic.
Yeah.
That I've always thought frozen was healthier than the canned.
It is.
Is that-
I agree that, I think it is, because when you flash freeze something, it'll actually hold in the nutrients better. So definitely frozen is better than the canned. And you wanna make sure that when it's frozen, that they don't put a bunch of gunk on it first to preserve it. So you gotta be careful with those preservatives. But if you're looking at the ingredients and it's a bag of, organic whole strawberries, on the ingredient list, you wanna see organic whole strawberries, nothing else, right? You don't wanna see gunk, yes, exactly. So, we could nitpick it to death on, but that's in plastic or that, we can do the best we can do as well, I think the whole glyphosate issue is, until it's completely banned, whether we're eating organic or not organic or making, growing our own vegetables, I think we're still gonna get a little bit because it's in our water. So as long as you do what you can personally, I think that makes a big difference. It really does. And, just protecting that liver is such an important thing because, that's our master organ of, I think of the master organ of our body. People think it's the heart, but really it's the liver that keeps us going. It's the liver that cleans our blood so our heart can pump it out, but we gotta protect the liver, guys. It's such an important thing. And right now, I don't know the exact statistic, but we are seeing non-alcoholic fatty liver more and more and more. And it's turned into an epidemic now, or getting close to an epidemic. And what that means is our livers are breaking down. They're not functioning. And we're seeing this in kids. It's sad, that sad diet, right? And that's why that's happening, is because of that sad diet, and our liver just cannot keep up with it, along with, all the environmental stuff that we come into contact too. So just do what you can personally to lower that impact on your liver. It's really, really important. So if you're coming up and having skin issues, liver, your liver is saying, oh my gosh, I am stuck. I can't process all that. It's got to go somewhere, and it's going to go into your skin a lot of times. So if you have a skin rash, or even just itching, if you get a lot of itching, whether there's a rash there or not, it's more than likely that your liver is pushing stuff into your skin. So, sorry, now I'm babbling.
How do you feel about cookware? Like nonstick versus stainless steel and plastic and.
What's that stuff called? The black nonstick? Teflon?
Teflon.
Teflon.
Yeah, no.
Throw it
Teflon.
away.
Is it Teflon? Okay.
If you have nonstick, throw it away.
There is nonstick that's not bad, but the Teflon, get rid of it. Because it's just seeping toxins into your food. If you're trying to eat really, and if you're trying to eat really healthy, what's the point if you're,
Toxins release up in
Yeah.
the food.
yeah, so, having good cookware. Huh?
The ceramic coating that is supposed to
Yeah,
be
ceramic is good. I'm fine with the ceramic, stainless steel. There's is it a granite? I don't know.
Yeah, granite.
The granite
Mhm.
ones I think are better.
But cast iron.
Cast iron is
Primarily
fine.
cast iron.
Mhm.
Stainless steel.
As long as you don't have high iron levels, then cast iron's fine, and I do fine with it. I cook a lot with it,
I
but
don't really know if it seeps out or not. That's a good question. I don't know.
The iron, oh yeah, you
Cast
definitely
iron.
get it.
You do.
Yeah, you do. And iron is something that you don't want excessive amounts of it, but it's really a very small amount that gets into your cookware. And just because I wasn't willing to go out and spend a couple $1,000s on a really high-end cookware, I just have continued to use cast iron because I knew it was better than Teflon. I haven't researched it, but I wouldn't buy any muffin pans until and what I do is I just type in organic cookware and then I just look at the ratings on something before I go to buy it. And I found a really good muffin tin that had really good ratings on Amazon, and it was a muffin pan that was about $20. I can't remember the name of it. But it's easy enough to research. That's the nice thing, is you can type in anything and you can look and see what the ratings are. And then there's some really good websites that we've referred you to. Another one I like pretty well is Wellness Mama. She does a pretty good job, and I imagine she's probably got some cookware rated out there. And so I just have a few websites that I like, and I just go screen, and look around and see what different people are saying. Dr. Mark Hyman is somebody that it's on the back side, but Dr. Hyman is Doctor's Pharmacy, and we listen to a lot of his podcasts.
It's pharmacy spelled F-A-R-M-C-Y.
Yeah, pharmacy.
When I was little, a couple of people in this room might be able to remember, is my parents used a lot of aluminum pans. That's not so good, is it?
No. With Dr. Mark Hyman, he came out with a book not too long ago called What the Heck Should I Eat? I recommend that one. It's good. It's good. It helps you just kind of decipher the good from the bad. So it's a good
This
one.
new book, Food Fix. It
Yeah,
just comes
Food
out
Fix
this
too,
week.
yeah.
And I can't wait.
I
to
know,
read
me
that.
too.
So he talks about a lot of the stuff you're talking about chemicals in our water and everything else. So it's pretty in-depth,
Right.
but
Right.
if you're just starting, it may be too much.
It may be.
And we don't want you guys to leave today and feel totally overwhelmed and be like, I need to throw away everything in my kitchen, including my cookware. I have nothing left in my kitchen that's safe, because really it's just a journey. You just, and what we would love to see is for you guys to come back next month and be like, I rocked out 12 vegetables per day, the whole rainbow. But it's not always practical, and we don't always hit it every day. There's lots of days
No,
we
I
don't
don't
hit
expect
it.
to eat the rainbow all in one day.
No, it's just not practical. But if you're eating no vegetables and you come back next month and you're consistently eating vegetables on a daily basis, then we're gonna consider that a win. So just take the information and do the best that you can and try to focus and, be intentional about making these changes. And the thing that's awesome about it is you will feel a difference. I have always been pretty healthy, but I will say that when I started working with Dr. Perkins a couple years ago, personally, I was not eating a lot of vegetables. I was eating healthy, what I thought was healthy, but I was not consuming a lot of vegetables. I don't like vegetables, or at least I didn't then. My palate has changed, and I didn't grow up. I grew up on canned green beans and canned corn. Probably most of us did. And vegetables tasted gross because they weren't prepared correctly. And I had never roasted a vegetable, I don't think, before I came into your office. I don't think I had
It's delicious
ever-
that way.
Oh my goodness, we love roasted vegetables now. So it's a process of learning how to relearn. I love to learn new things.
What about cooking them in the air fryer? Is that a good way to eat them?
That's better. Yeah.
I mean, it's a
Once
really
again,
good way.
you're cooking out the water soluble vitamins, but you do that in just about any way of cooking, so.
Yeah.
Don't
Actually
bread
looked
it.
that up, and they said it is good.
I do it a
Yeah.
lot, so I was hoping
Yeah.
You're
that
not-
maybe that was okay.
It's probably comparable to roasting, because
Right,
even
right.
with roasting, because it's a higher temperature, there's some people that poo-poo on that. But you know what, you're still gonna get the nutrients, it's gonna be a lot better. And I find because they taste so good roasted, you eat more of them. I mean, we eat a lot of roasted vegetables because they taste really good.
Well, and I heard too with roasting at the higher temperature
Mhm.
to use a different oil, like avocado oil.
Avocado
Is that
oil,
okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had no
Yeah.
clue, like the different oils were for different temperatures and.
Yeah, avocado oil has a much higher smoking point,
Mhm.
so you can use it at much higher temperatures. Because like if you use like extra virgin olive oil for really high smoke points or for really high cooking, it'll oxidize and then you're putting a lot of oxidation stress on your body. You don't want to do that.
Which is
You wanna-
the opposite of
Right.
what we wanna do. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Olive oil is great. It's the very best when you don't heat it and you like put it on your vegetables once they're already, you know, out of the heating process. So,
Coconut oil too. You
yeah,
can do
coconut oil
higher,
is good.
higher temperature cooking.
Yeah, and some people do have a hard time with raw vegetables. If you have a tendency towards like irritable bowel and that type of thing, I've had people tell me, I can't eat raw vegetables. And that is the case for some people, especially if they have a more sensitive digestive system. And then you can lean more towards the softer vegetables that are a little easier to digest. And then those harder vegetables like the carrots, turn those into roasted vegetables or put them in stir fry. Daniel?
So I had this conversation with my mom where I like eating like fresh fish, fresh chicken,
Uh-huh.
and she says probably healthier to eat frozen chicken, frozen fish, because like if they freeze it right away, they don't have to put so many preservatives in it to keep it fresh.
So fish, you're not gonna get a lot of fresh fish here, right?
Right.
So most of the time, and if you go to the grocery store and you're looking at like the fresh fish in like the cases at the meat counter, it was frozen and they thawed it out is what. So it is better to just buy it frozen. Chicken, on the other hand, we've got a lot of chickens around here. We just don't have a lot of fish, right? So chicken, that could be a different story. If you want to get fresh chicken, I would recommend getting it from a farmer though, and not from the grocery store, because then you know how fresh it really is,
Yeah.
right? So, but the fish thing, I completely agree, because they flash freeze it on the boat,
Mm-hmm.
so it's.
They didn't have to do a lot to it to get.
Mm-mm. Nope.
What about filtering your water?
Oh, yeah. We got a whole
We got a
month
whole
on.
month dedicated to that.
Yeah, a talk on that.
Like
Yeah.
today, obviously not bottled water.
Right, you wanna stay away from the plastic bottles, right? You wanna talk about the Berkey for a second?
I mean, I love a Berkey. I have it. The reason I love it is because it's affordable. It's not out of sight, and I can take it with me. You know, I'm getting ready to put my house on the market, and when I go, my Berkey's gonna be in my back seat going with me. Whereas if you put in a whole house filtration system, then it stays with the house. The Berkey was a really good starting point for me. And it comes in different sizes and it just sits on your counter, and you can add filters to the Berkey that filter out the chlorine. I think it's the chlorine. Anybody else a Berkey fan? Chloride and fluoride. Are the black filters the fluoride? So those you have to purchase separately, and I think those are fluoride. Fluoride is added to our water. For those of you that don't know that, our lovely, somebody somewhere decided it was a really great idea to put fluoride in the water.
It's for our teeth.
Yeah, which is ridiculous because it also decreases testing scores in children, like IQ. So there is that. So we pull that back out, and then we pull out the things that are in the tap water as well through the Berkey. And I just was on a rant, and I called Berkey the other day. I'm like, was asking them about, because I did my tap water thing, and I was like asking them, well, I have 30 times the recommended amount of this. Do you pull that out? And the gal's like, yes, ma'am, we pull that out. So they've done a lot of testing, and the only thing that they did not pull out was radon.
Yeah, and uranium.
It's-
Am I saying that right? So radioactive elements, there's parts of the country that will have more radioactive elements in their water than others. North of us, they have a lot more than we do. But yeah, they don't pull that out.
She told me they can't pull it out because it's a gas. And she said the best thing to do is to, once it hits the air, then the radon will evaporate and go away.
No, I know that there's a filter being used.
I thought that there was, because I was thinking, why would EWG report it as, it was like 30 times the recommended amount at my house. And I'm thinking, why would they report it if it just evaporates when it hits the air? But that's the only thing that I'm aware of when on my report personally, that the Berkey didn't pull out. But it does pull out a lot, and for now it's good.
It's better than tap, right?
It's absolutely better than tap, and there again, we're aiming for an improvement.
Right.
But I will say that the reverse osmosis pulls out all of the minerals. So that's something you need to be aware of, is there's a lot of buzz over, drink alkalized water, drink reverse osmosis, drink this, drink coconut water. Well, there's, like reverse osmosis does pull out the minerals, and then when we drink from plastic, we are probably, especially if those water bottles have been in a hot truck somewhere along the way, like here we are in the Midwest, and it gets extremely hot in the summertime, so you grab that bottle of purified water, and there can be plastic particles in there that you're drinking, and so that's not the best thing. But we want you guys to be hydrated, so, we drink water bottles, like there's times when you need to drink it. The Berkey is the only system that I'm really familiar with that I could speak to. Do you have anything to add?
The Berkey is expensive, so if you want to start like today, just go get whatever go get the $20 filter that you can put on your faucet if you want to start today, right? So the Berkey is like $300 or something.
They sell some that are more of the
You can
150
start
to
somewhere.
$200 range, I think.
Yeah.
The smaller ones are about 150 to
Yeah.
200, but still it's an investment
Yeah.
for sure.
So you can go to Walmart and get the pure, I think it's just PUR. Stick that on your faucet, and at least it's something, right? It's that first step, so.
What about the ones in the fridges, like the built-in ones in the refrigerators? Like
Oh,
the
yeah.
filters in those?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep your filter.
I'm
clean.
sure,
As long as you're-
you
gotta
filter
keep
out.
it
I'm sure it
Those are
does pull
probably-
some stuff out.
Yeah.
Probably
And it-
similar to the
To the
one on the
other,
faucet.
yeah.
Okay.
Probably,
I
and
think
it
so.
would depend on the manufacturer as to what it, you could probably go on the website when you get your fridge and find out what it pulls out, but I'm sure it does pull some stuff out. The other thing I'll just comment on this, because it's a trend, is distilled water is really popular, and it has nothing left in it. If you put a fish in distilled water, you're gonna get a floaty. Like, it's gonna die. So it has nothing left in it. So distilled water, we are not intended to drink that on a regular basis, and that is something that they're like, some people are like, I don't wanna drink distilled water because it has everything removed. Well, it literally has everything removed, and we are supposed to get minerals from our water. So I really wouldn't recommend that.
It's just great in the CPAP though.
Oh.
You can use it in the CPAP.
Yeah, it really has nothing in it.
Right. All right, well, thank you guys. I'm so glad.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys came. I hope you have good takeaways.